You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
Welcome to the Toronto Sports Rush channel's Toronto Maple Leaf and NHL season preview brought to you by the Bet Rivers Network. My name is Kyle Andrew, and today I am joined by Hradek, analyst and host from both the NHL Network and, of course, here on Toronto Sports Rush, and Neil Smith, host of the NHL Wraparound podcast and architect of the 1994 Stanley Cup champion New York Rangers. Before we begin, I want to encourage everyone watching today, please like this video, leave us a comment, but most importantly, subscribe. That's how we grow. EJ, I'm going to begin with you. The Toronto Maple Leafs lineup projections are all over the internet right now. How does this lineup play differently than last year's?
Well, I mean, the fact that Marner is out of the picture is obviously the big news, right? We've talked about it a lot since his departure to Vegas via trade/free agency. And, they'll have to make up those goals over time. I think, Neil could certainly speak to this as a guy who's built hockey teams. I mean, the regular season challenge is different than the playoff challenge. For me, this team likely won't be as good in the regular season without Marner, but I think they have a chance to be better in the postseason with the additions of guys like Dakota Joshua and Nick Waugh and some of the other pieces that they have around the team. And the ability, I think, even though they are, it seems like they have not really that much cap space. I believe that they will figure out a way to add another piece or two along the way. So for me, I think that what this team is looking to do is to be better when it matters, and I think that they will be.
Neil, your thoughts on that?
No, I've heard that opinion from other people that have talked about this team, including I think it was Mike Rupp on NHL Network that said something similar to that. It's hard to envision your team losing Marner but getting better. And I think EJ's right about they're not going to be as good a regular season team, because in the regular season, when you have guys like Marner, like Matthews, like Nylander, and you can go on to a couple others, there's nights when, a bunch of guys take the night off and those guys still get their goals and you end up winning the game because they got their goals. Because that's what they do. That's what Nylander, Marner, Matthews, and others, those offensively gifted guys do. They get their points, they get their goals. And so a lot of nights they win games for you by themselves. Each one may be a different night, some of them all together, and that's why you have such a great regular season. But then the playoffs come, and that stuff doesn't matter anymore, because all you need to do is win by one goal, and you've won the playoff game, and that's all the team wants to do. And those guys, they don't quite know how to win by one goal, and yet the Florida type guys do know how to just win by one goal and don't care. So I agree with EJ. They might be better in the playoffs with less talent than they were this past year and in years past.
That's really good stuff, guys. And before we continue, I just want to encourage everyone at home to log in on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday each week to receive an NHL same-game parlay profit boost. Minimum 3 legs, minimum odds, plus 300. Players can receive one NHL same-game parlay profit boost upon each log on Tuesday, each Thursday, and each Saturday during the specified promotional period. Neil, I want to continue with you. From a general manager's perspective, what is Brad Treliving looking for early in this season to identify areas of weakness, and he may have to address as the season goes on? Like, where is his focus early in the season with this new lineup?
Well, I would think that it's just on where am I most vulnerable? Where do I need to fortify the team? In conjunction, of course, with Craig Berube, in conversations with them on a daily basis, almost multiple times a day. That usually the GM and the coach talk on good teams. Mm-hmm. It could be. Is the defense strong enough 1 through 6? Do we need a better shutdown pair? How good is Dakota Joshua going to be? Is he going to be okay to play the role they need him to play, or do they need to go look for somebody else? He's just going to start to see how this team gels right from game one on, and then take it from there.
EJ, I'm looking at the Bet Rivers future markets right now, and I'm focusing in on Auston Matthews very specifically. His over-under on points is 90.5. His over-under on goals is 44.5. Is it fair to expect more offensive output from him this year than last? I mean, we speculate that he was injured for most of last year, but he's lost Mitch Marner. What should we expect to see?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I mean, listen, he's a superstar player in this league. I mean, he's paid accordingly. And the guy is, he had, what did he have, 69 goals a couple of years ago? I mean, yeah, he's lost Marner, but this is a guy that they have Knies in a more prominent role now. They have other good players around him. He's still going to be a guy that plays in all offensive situations. He's got a great shot, so. I mean, listen, he better figure out a way to put up points and put up goals. I mean, that's what he's there for. I mean, obviously in the playoffs, you want him to play, a 200-foot game more, and you'd like seeing that in the regular season as well. But I mean, let's face it, they're not paying him all that money to be a checking center. They're paying him money to score goals and to create offense and to lead this team offensively. And I think it's really fair. I think hopefully he's going to be healthy. Last year there was all these stories. I remember being on with you guys in November last year, and we were trying to figure out what plane he was on to Germany for some kind of special secret treatment, right? So he had a lot of issues last year. He didn't seem like he was right for good portions of the season. Hopefully he's going to be healthy. It's one of those years with the Olympics, so I'm sure that he's revved up for that as well. But he's going to. Listen, without Marner, more of the offensive load will fall on him, and he's going to have to answer. He's going to have to answer the bell in that regard.
Neil, can you recall a similar situation from your time in the NHL where a superstar player at this level had a good but not great year and then rebounded in a way that he was expected to?
Well, I don't have stats in front of me, but it seems to me that Ovechkin right now has done that in the recent past. He's 2 years ago, we all wondered, was he going to retire? And then last year, we don't need to relive that again. But I mean, we know what happened last year. So he just was like Cocoon or something, that he'd been in that movie, last year. So yeah, it does happen. And I agree with EJ about him, that Matthews is going to have to play to the level of compensation that he's been paid. And he was paid that because he got those 60 goals. If he was a 44 goal scorer, he wasn't going to get the money that he's got. And if he wasn't a league MVP, he wasn't going to get the money that he's got. So he doesn't necessarily have to win MVP year after year, although I'm sure the Toronto fans would like that. But he certainly needs to be in the conversation with the McDavids and the Dreisaitl's and these people, and I guess maybe now Kirill Kaprizov, although I doubt it. He needs to be in that conversation in order to justify what he earns.
Neil, sticking with you, EJ had just mentioned Matthew Knies. He's still so young. How much of a leader on and off the ice can someone this young be? Do you have any examples of leaders you had in your team that, kind of defied their age and stepped up early in their career?
Well, it's amazing you say that, because my head went right to Adam Graves, and I'm not sure that Adam Graves was, and I'm not sure the age of Graves. Well, I can tell you, when he got to the Rangers, it was 91, and he's born in 68. So how fast can we do the math? Was he 23? 23, I guess, at that point?
In that range.
Yeah, and I don't know what's Nye's age right now. But
22, 23, he's right the same age.
And he was a power forward like that. He came in and right away was like a wrecking ball with forechecking and sticking up for Mess. He was on a line with Mess right away and so on. And I think I always, when I think of Knies, I sort of equate it to that, like to being that kind of, he might fill back in the core four. He might, step in for Marner and be that guy. I really like the way he plays. On our podcast, I actually picked him as a breakout player of the year for me, thinking that this would be his year. I don't think that the contract will slow him down. I actually think that the contract and an enhanced role, now that Marner's not there, will actually incentivize him to play even better.
So EJ, your thoughts on that too, because I think there's the high expectations on him right now, but they're deserved, and there's no real reason to speculate that he won't meet those expectations.
Yeah, I mean, he was a highly thought of prospect. There was a number of teams that were trying to pry him out of Toronto, watching his growth and development coming up through playing, in college hockey, playing with the U.S. development program. he has kind of continued to get better. And I thought last year, I mean, he really matured into a really important playoff player, like, a little bit in the mold of Sam Bennett, was a guy that could play physical and could kind of take a team on his back physically, at least, in those moments and help drive things. I think he's only going to get better. Hopefully he's going to stay healthy. And, I think the Adam Graves, comparable from years gone by, I think is a good one. I think the only difference for me would be that Graves was part of that Edmonton team that won where was he on the kid line there, Neil?
Yeah.
In Edmonton with some of those younger. So he had that experience around really great players and been part of a winning team at a very young age. Knies hasn't really had that, but I think it's a real good comparable in that, they both kind of are big, strong guys that could score goals and play with a little bit of an edge. And, like I said, you've seen that with Sam Bennett in the postseason. We've seen it with others throughout the history of this game. Those type of players are really hard to find and really valuable.
EJ, sticking with you briefly, we saw his role, his game mature. Is William Nylander still getting better?
I think so. I mean, he's a money player, that guy. Like in the big moments, like he does not shy away. Like it doesn't always work. But, like, he wants to be in the spotlight. That is clear. And I think, and that is good news as well, because when the games get more important, I don't think you have to worry about William Nylander not giving his best effort or not, being someone that could make a difference in those moments. I mean, it hasn't worked out in the biggest of moments. But, again, last year, this is a team that won the division. They went to the second round. They went to a Game 7 of the second round, and they lost to the team that eventually won the Stanley Cup and a team that obliterated Carolina and really handled Edmonton pretty good in a 6-game series as well. So, this team, is moving in the right direction. And I think, again, because of the history of the franchise, especially the more recent history over the last, 20, 30, 40 years, you want to go all the way back to 67, be my guest. I say, but at the end of the day, I mean, this team last year was a really good team in this league. So you could argue it might have been the second or third best team in the entire league. Can they move off that this year? I don't know, but Nylander, I don't think has been the problem there. I think Nylander in the big moments has been able to step up. We'll see if he can do it again this year.
Neil, I want to ask you about someone that left the New York hockey area to come to Toronto. John Tavares, how valuable is he to this hockey team? He signed the new deal. He said all the right things in the media. He had an excellent regular season last year. Talk about John Tavares and the value he brings to a lineup like this.
I really have a lot of respect for John and especially what he did last year. When it's very hard when management says, look, it's time to turn the C over to this younger guy. You've only got 1 year to go. You probably won't be here for very much longer, even though you're a Toronto native and you left the Islanders to come here. Can you go along with us and make this a smooth transition? And he made it an unbelievable transition. He played hard. He said all the right things. He fell in line, and he had a terrific season. And they rewarded him, or they rewarded each other, I guess, the team and Tavares, with that contract that he's got going forward. And I really think that he's a great leader for that team. I think, when the going gets tough is when you judge people, right? When their own personal lives are a little bit in turmoil, and Tavares couldn't have handled it any better. And so I think he's a very valuable member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's a very valuable guy for the young players, for the aforementioned Knies and even Nylander and these players, to see how you carry yourself when you're a real pro, because I think he is a real pro. And I'm at the Islander games, guys, as you know, and I see that. I know what he goes through when he's at the Islander games, and they the whole building is booing him when he's there, because he left, and which is, I find, comical, because they don't understand that this is a guy that shouldn't have been put in a position where he could have gone. He should have been signed by the Islanders earlier, but there was a bit of a management transition going on at that point, and he walked away for free. A first overall pick walks away for nothing for the Islanders, and yet the fans boo him every time he touches the puck when he gets into UBS Arena. So I can't say enough good things from afar. I don't know John. I wish I did, but I really admire what he does with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
EJ, thoughts on John Tavares?
Yeah, well, listen, he's at the price that he is being paid now. He is a real value for the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? And he put his money where his mouth is. I mean, we all joked about, they had the picture of him with the Toronto Maple Leafs pajamas as a small boy that came out when he signed with the Leafs, right? But I mean, that's, maybe we live in an era now where, everything is kind of a joke or not, but like, listen, that's a dream. Yeah. Like a lot of us, when we were little boys and, we had that dream of maybe, playing at some high level or being on one of these teams. He lived it. And he had an opportunity to leave, and he came and he embraced the idea of coming to Toronto, and now they paid him a ton of money. And if I was running the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time, I would not have made that move because I think that they could have spent that money on defense and goaltending with the people they already had. But that's not a reflection on John Tavares. They offered it to him, he took it, and now he ends up taking a deal moving forward. Like if he had been on the open market, guys, I mean, he would have made way more than he's making right now, or coming off a really good year. Teams are dying. What would the Carolina Hurricanes be willing to pay a really good second center to go alongside Aho or Winnipeg? With the behind Scheifele there. I mean, like there's a number of teams that would have. Colorado, they ended up keeping Brock Nelson. Maybe they would have gotten on Tavares. So he put his money where his mouth is. He took less money to stay in Toronto. It's where he wants to be. To Neil's point, he's been a really good leader, and he's managed all kinds of different things, in Toronto. And he's just one of those guys. I mean, you don't ever hear any issues with John Tavares other than, you'd like him to be, if he's playing well, you want him to be playing better. That's about all you really hear about John Tavares. So, I think the fact that he signed for that contract really allows for the Leafs to try to kind of push forward and have a little bit more room moving forward to help the team be better.
The other thing, if I can just jump in for a second, sure. I just thought of this is what a paradox when you've got two Torontonians. One wants to be in Toronto and be at home, and the other wants to get as far away from Toronto as he can. And so he goes to Las Vegas. I mean, isn't that interesting? Who should the fans, be more excited about? The guy who wants to be there or the guy who doesn't want to be there? I just thought of that now because it's interesting. It's not usual that First of all, the Leafs got criticized for decades for not having enough Toronto kids. I mean, Don Cherry went on a rant every Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada about how the Leafs didn't have any Canadian kids. Why are they drafting all these Europeans and everything else? And they should have good Toronto boys. Well, now they finally got they've had a bunch of them in the last few years. Starting with Kadri, I think it was, and then like we said with Marner and Tavares and. Look, Tavares wants to be in his hometown. He wants his parents, I guess, at the games. He wants his friends at the games. It is a dream. I can only imagine what it must be like. I can only say that when I was that age, if I was ever given the chance to skate out onto Maple Leaf Gardens and play in front of all my friends, what a thrill that would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly. EJ, I want to ask you interviewed Anthony Stolarz right here on the Toronto Sports Rush channel. Yeah. By all accounts, he does have a great mindset for the position he finds himself in now. With the contract done and his future certain, how ready is he for a Stanley Cup run in the number one slot?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing with Anthony is just to be able to stay healthy. I mean, and he has not been able to do that over the course of his career at different times. Now, the last 2 years when he's been in there and healthy, he's had great numbers. I think it's .925 and .926 save percentage over the last 2 years, kind of in obviously a much different role in Florida, a secondary role there behind Sergei Bobrovsky, but really in a different role, a starring role in Toronto, but he was injured during the middle of the year. He missed time. Joe Wall had to kind of pick him up there. And then in the playoffs, he got dinged up, and, we didn't see him after the early portion of game one against Florida. So when he's healthy, he's proven to be really good. I mean, my concern with Anthony is he's a big guy, and there's a lot of traffic at the net, and, he's had the propensity to get hurt. Let's see if he can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, he's proven that he can play well. They have a good defense in front of him. I think he's got the right disposition for the position.
Yes.
And he's a little bit older now. He's into his early 30s. I mean, he's kind of a funny guy and a fun guy, and he just kind of lets things roll off his back a little bit. I think he learned a lot being with Bobrovsky there in Florida. Also, previously, I think being around John Gibson in Anaheim was helpful for him in his development. And, goalies, sometimes they get better as they get a little bit older. So I like Anthony a lot. I mean, I'm biased. He's a Jersey guy. I've gotten to know him, and I want him to succeed for sure. I think that his willingness to take the deal he did, right? I mean, I think it goes back, in his case, I think it goes back to, hey, I want the security of a 4-year contract, right? So I'm willing to take a little less. If he had a good year this year, which is very possible on a good team, and hit the open market, I mean, he could have been a guy that maybe doubled that number.
Yeah.
On even a longer deal. But I think because he understands I've had injuries, this game is, it can be all over the place sometimes. He had never had that stability in his career. The fact that he was able to find it in Toronto, I think he was happy to do what he did. We'll see how it goes. He's got a good team in front of him, but I think Anthony he's capable. He just has to stay healthy.
Neil, I want you to step back into the role of general manager for a second when I ask you this. As a general manager, when you kind of in a rebuilding mode with this team, you add Michelli, Nick Raw, Dakota Joshua. How much trepidation is it from a general manager's perspective early in the season, hoping these guys work out the way you think they could?
Oh, you're sitting there in the press box watching the games, eating your popcorn and just praying that these guys come through for you, because you all eyes are on you, and you're right. You're just hoping that the intelligence that you've gathered on these guys is right, and that they are going to be what everybody was telling you they could be. Going just for a second back to Stolarz, I found it interesting yesterday when I read that they picked up Caden Primo, who of course is Keith Primo's son, who is a former Hab, and now he's a Leaf. But they picked him up when they released James Reimer, and I found it sad. You talk about Tavares and Marner and this Toronto thing. What must it have been for James Reimer to get that PTO to go back to Toronto, and that's what he really wanted was, can I get one more shot at being the goalie in Toronto and go back to my best part of my career when I was number one in Toronto, and he got released. So I find that a little bit sad for him. But I agree with EJ. I think there's a good marriage there between Stolarz and the Leafs, regardless of the fact that he doesn't come from Toronto. I think that the thing is that Stolarz has wanted to be a number one goalie, obviously. Finally has been given a chance in an unbelievable market, on an unbelievable team. And now they want to sign him to a contract and anoint him number one. I think he did the smart thing. Take the deal, and here's your shot. Here's your shot at being number one. And you know what? My God, if you could ever really do it and be the goalie, the Johnny Bower.
Oh, yeah.
The last one was Johnny Bower. Yeah. So you might be able to be the next Johnny Bower. So I think it's a great marriage for the two of them. And I'm pulling for him, but I agree with EJ about his size too. Guys, you get a guy who's 6'5", 6'6", whatever he is, standing in the net with all that equipment on, not in motion. So, I mean, just side to side. Mm-hmm. That's, it's easy to get knocked around and get hurt when you're just standing there. And guys are trying to get you bumped and this and that. If you're a big guy and you're skating and you're fluid, it's not the same. You can sort of the fluidity gets you away from those hits and those injuries. When you're a big guy and you're just standing still, it's easy to get hit. People think, well, because you're so big, you shouldn't get hurt. Yeah. That's really not the case.
Okay, so one thing I want to hear from both of you guys on, Easton Cowan has been sent back down. Now, it seemed very publicly in the media in the preseason, both Austin Matthews, Matthew Knies, they were talking him up in a way that made me at least believe that they wanted him up on the big club, but he's been sent down. What are your thoughts on that, EJ, first?
Well, it was a little bit surprising, but I mean, at the end of the day, you have to trust Craig Berube and the coaching staff and, Brad Treliving that they know what's best for a 20-year-old kid. I mean, let's face it, he's just 20. He's played a couple of years of junior. I said it the other day with Peter McGuire, though. I mean, he's been at the Harvard of junior hockey at London, and they've had a lot of success there. And But they just feel that at this point in time, when they look at their roster, I mean, this is not him trying to make the San Jose Sharks or the Chicago Blackhawks. Right. This is a good roster that they've gone out and meticulously looked for particular pieces in certain areas. And for whatever reason in camp, they just didn't feel he was quite ready right now. Now, they went out and picked up, Sammy Blais was on waivers. He had played and been an important piece for the Abbotsford team in the AHL last year when they won the Calder Cup. He has a relationship with Craig Berube going back to his time in St. Louis. So he has, somebody that had a pretty significant injury and then kind of has been trying to kind of regain his ability to stay at the National Hockey League level. I have no idea if he's going to be able to be a participant for the Leafs this year in terms of being on that team. But I think that this game is, Neil will tell you, it's all relationships, and like there's a relationship there with Berube and Blais, and he did play well for a team that won a championship, albeit at a minor league level. He's had success on being on a good team where Craig Berube knows him. So maybe he sees a role for him down the road. But I think Easton Cowan going down, I mean, I can't imagine, this is a high-end prospect for this team. And, he's going to be back at some point. And it may be sooner than we even think. I mean, who knows? Yeah. Maybe this is all just, smoke and mirrors with, different cap implications or trying to shuffle different players. But he's going to be a part of things moving forward. It's just a matter of when.
Neil, your thoughts on Easton?
Well, I just think that I echo what EJ said, but I do believe too, from a GM standpoint, is you doing this roster management, and sometimes if you had you've got the ability to send certain guys down, and you don't have the ability to send other guys down, and sometimes you send down a guy who probably shouldn't be sent down, but because you have that option, you do it just to manage your roster. And that could be the case in this situation. They feel like, as EJ said, he could be back sooner rather than later and at any time. And they know they've got those cards to play. They don't have those cards to play with other people. They can't grab a veteran and then have that card to play where they can, sort of puppeteer him up and down from the minors. But that's what you get in your first couple of years in the NHL, that management's able to do that. And, so I think that they haven't lost any confidence in him, and he shouldn't lose any in himself. Mm-hmm. This is just what happens at the beginning of your career, unless, like as EJ said, if he was on the Chicago Blackhawks, like he'd be there. There's no doubt. Yeah. He's not going out to Rockford.
Might have been there last year.
Yeah, exactly right, EJ. But on the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that's in the top, arguably the top 6 teams in the league. Yeah. You're gonna have to wait your turn.
Okay, so guys, I want to move around the league here because we were just talking about favorable contracts the Toronto Maple Leafs have managed to sign. So let's talk about maybe the most favorable deal ever given. Connor McDavid has extended his contract with the Edmonton Oilers, average annual value of $12.5 million. We live in a world where that's an incredible bargain, EJ.
I'd love to live in a world where that was an incredible bargain for me. Sure. No, I mean, again, Connor McDavid, I think the word is flexibility here. Connor's been really close, right? He's looking for that one more win or 2 more wins the last couple of years to win a Stanley Cup. And guys like Connor McDavid and, Gretzky, Lemieux, Crosby, Ovechkin, they're end of their careers, they're judged by whether they won or not. That's just the way it is, despite all the other things they do and how great they are, and we know how great of hockey players they are. So Connor McDavid is trying to figure out a way to get those last couple of wins there in Edmonton. He's got some great players around him. He understands the situation in terms of, the salary cap is what it is, and so he's willing to basically stay flat because he was making 12.5 on a 2-year deal that gives the team the flexibility financially to go out and add pieces maybe necessary to get them over the hump. And in his case, it gives him, he's not locked in long term. He's got this year and then 2 after that. And if things don't work out, or he's not happy with the direction of the team, or he doesn't feel like management has done enough, he will have the flexibility then to decide to leave. And also, if they were to win this year or next year, at the end of that contract, he might want to do something else in his life. and he has that opportunity. I mean, Neil Smith brought in Mark Messier from Edmonton. I don't think anybody was really thinking Messier was going to leave Edmonton, but eventually he did. And, Gretzky was the same thing. So I think the flexibility is the key here. The pressure is now on the Senators the Oilers management group to get things done and to add the pieces necessary with the savings they have over these couple of years.
Neil, your thoughts on the contract?
Well, I think that McDavid and his agent, who's McDavid's agent again? I'm sorry.
Judd Moldauer.
Yeah. Oh, is it Judd? Okay, I know Judd.
Yeah.
He was with Pat Brisson in the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
So obviously Judd has to be in total harmony with McDavid and to make sure that his wishes are granted in the fact of what he wants to do, because some agents would be pushing their player, no, you can get 20. You can get 20. We're not going to take 12. You can get 20. And by the way, my 5% of that 20 is a lot higher than 5% of 12.
That's right.
So I think Judd must have obviously made sure that Connor got his wishes known, and obviously Connor and the Oilers have a great relationship. But I agree with EJ. What he's done is he said, look, I'm going to give you 3 years to show that, we're going to be a contender and stay a contender and do everything we can to win a cup. And then I'll take it from there. If I don't see that happening, then I might come back to you and say, I want you to trade me. And maybe he's also said that to them. Maybe he said, look, I'll do this, but if I come to you and say, I want you to trade me, you gotta do it. And maybe that was in there. Who knows?
That's great stuff, guys. Okay, last thing before I let you both go. I'm going to start with you, Neil. Around the league, what are some teams you identify that could either surprise us or disappoint us?
Oh, this is a great question, because I did this on our show, so I'm all ready for that.
We'll just clip the segment and glue it here.
I think that surprise us. I think that Utah definitely is a team that could surprise people. I think that Anaheim, without a doubt, is a team that can surprise some people and put in a good fight this season. I think that St. Louis has got to keep going, and I have no doubt with Jim Montgomery they will. But they're a bubble team. I think that Boston and Pittsburgh, it's going to be a long year for the black and gold in both places. And as far as disappointing, quite obviously, Florida is not going to be the team we saw in the Stanley Cup Finals when they start off without Barkov and without Tkachuk. Anybody could tell you that. But I don't know. I think Tampa Bay will be right in the fight again, as they always are. And I think Glenn Gulutzan with Dallas will do a real good job. And this could be a year when, that his presence is felt. He did a good job with young guys in Edmonton. Now he's got a chance to do it on his own stage with Dallas, and he's taking over a good team. Not many coaches get to take over a team of that level, because usually when a coach gets fired, it's because of they underachieved. I don't think that's really why Pete DeBoer got fired. That they just needed a new voice, I guess, according to Jim Neal. But anyway, that's my list.
EJ, how about you? Who could surprise us? Who could disappoint?
I think for me, I'll start with Dallas just briefly. I mean, I think the Dallas Stars are in the situation kind of like a lot of teams that are really good, like Toronto and some others, is that like they're going to play these 82 games, right? And they're going to get in the playoffs. I mean, unless something dramatic happens. Yeah. But this is just going to be this is like a seed holder. They have to win in the playoffs. They've gone deep into the playoffs, but they haven't been able to win. And to me, I thought, quite frankly, they got pushed around by the Edmonton Oilers, who in turn got pushed around by the Florida Panthers. So will the Dallas Stars have enough? Will there be enough physical pushback in their group in playoff games where that is the way to winning in a lot of cases, is to make sure that you are not pushed around? I thought Glenn Gulutzan coming in there is interesting because listen, he's coached before. He coached Dallas before. He coached in Calgary. He's been an assistant. He's not like one of the first guys that you think of, but he did in his press conference identify something that was really important. He said, we have to be more physical. We have to be tougher, because he was on that Oiler bench and he watched his then team, the Oilers, push around the Dallas Stars. Remember when it was Bouchard, I think, took the chop on the foot of Rope Hintz, and nobody really did anything. Hintz had the bad foot. And, to have Bouchard all of a sudden is walking around taking liberties with guys. I mean, the Dallas Stars, to me, that's where they have to be better. This is obviously a highly skilled team. So I'll be looking in the postseason. He says he wants them to be a little bit tougher each game to build towards that. They better be if they want to win. As far as a team I think is going to have a better year this year, I think it's the logo right over Neil's head. I think the New York Rangers, it's their centennial. Last year, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. They had all this personnel issues behind the scenes. Chris Drury, I think, mismanaged some of that stuff as a manager there. They've moved some of that stuff out. They've brought in Mike Sullivan, who is, obviously brings a certain amount of pedigree there. He's a Stanley Cup winner. They gave him a big contract to come in there and coach that team. They bring JT Miller, the captain. They've moved out guys like Kreider. They moved out Trouba last year. They've got still a great goalie, maybe the best goalie in the league when all is going well. They bring in Gavrikov on defense. So I just think they're going to defend better. They got a lot of pieces. I don't think they're a team that will win the Stanley Cup, but I think they have a good chance to be back in the playoffs and to be better this year. As far as a team that I think could, regress, staying in that division, maybe the Washington Capitals, because the first 2/3 of the year, everything that could go right went right. The guys they went out and got, like Neil said, you make those acquisitions, you're hoping those guys are going to play well. They all played well. The last third of the year, they didn't defend as well. I thought, they struggled down the stretch. They beat a Montreal team that had kind of was happy to be in the playoffs and was much smaller. And then against Carolina in the second round, I thought they got completely outplayed. Sure. It was not competitive, and that was disappointing. So we will see if the Capitals can maintain like that 100-point type season they had last year. I think they're going to regress a little bit. I think the Rangers will be better.
Guys, that was really great stuff. I want to thank you both for joining us here today on the Toronto Sports Rush channel. This has been the NHL season preview, the Toronto Maple Leafs season preview. On behalf of EJ Hradek and Neil Smith, my name's Kyle Andrew. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.